Greetings, bookworms and quillophiles. I have some exciting news for you today. And before we go any further, let me apologize for any background noise you may hear. Something's going on outside, and it's been getting the dogs all riled up, so you may hear barking in the background, and I do apologize that. But back to the good news. I put the word out into the universe, and the universe responded. Today I have a book talk about a book by a new author, and it's her debut book. Today we will be discussing the book Mulberry Seeds by Lisa-Behrens Smith. It's an anthology-style book with a telling subtitle, Stories of Youth and Innocence. Lisa, who is a teacher here in my hometown of Bakersfield, and she happens to work for the same school district I do, recently decided to hop back on the writer's bandwagon and penned a story, in this case her first story. She actually did it quite a while ago, but it sounds like it's been sitting on the shelves for a while until she felt more comfortable releasing it. And if this is a sign of what we have to look forward to going forward, I hope she keeps going, because it's a very good book. As I've said before, these Book Talk episodes are not reviews. I'm not analyzing, criticizing, beating up, or tearing down your baby. As a new writer, we all do that to ourselves already. You'll find that most of us tend to be our own worst critics, and we really don't need to hear it from someone else. I will read the book, talk about it, and I will do so with enough vagueness that while expressing my experience, will not give away so much of the book that will leave you sitting there saying, well, damn, now I know what the plot, the characters, and the end story is. What's the point of buying it? So you're still going to want to read it. So let's dive into this book. And let me start by saying that without a doubt, I enjoyed this book. It's not my typical read. It's not one I probably would have gone out and just picked up on my own. But I'm delighted to have had the chance of reading it. Part of what I think spoke to me was the language of the characters. My family, on my father's side anyway, comes from Texas, specifically a place probably none of you out there have ever heard of called Monahans. It's one of those little towns where if you sneeze as you're passing through, you'll probably miss it. And if you do so with the windows open, you'll probably get pulled over for creating a nuisance. I was told one time by, I think it was my grandmother, that when they lived there, the sheriff also happened to be the fire chief. It's that kind of a town, that small of a town. But anyway, getting back to the story, the language that Lisa uses in the books is very reminiscent of the accent I remember my grandmother having. The point of view you have through the stories is that of a child. So you can picture that light Texas twang spoken from a child who's still learning to grasp the use of their own tongue, which only adds to the charm of the story. So, let's move forward with my typical entry. Imagine a time, namely in the late 60s, 1968 to be specific, and you're living in small town Texas. It's summer, and air conditioning is more of a dream for most people than fact. Your choices for entertainment are usually restricted to whatever you happen to hear on the radio, any games you might have around the house, or a limited smattering of TV channels, which traveled over the air for us when we were kids. Some of you people listening to this out there may not realize that, but even today you can still pick up some TV over the air. You just have to have an antenna for it. And that means you have to go through the channels. You don't just pick up streaming. Anyway, I'll stop beating up the newer kids on the block. In fact, ours was a small black and white TV with rabbit ears that looked like at some point the rabbit had an unfortunate encounter with a UFO made out of tinfoil. I can identify with this story in a way because I grew up in Taft, and it's just, I can picture these kids running around in Taft in the early 70s. But here, in this story, you're in the shoes of Jolene, as she and her sister Corrine navigate the ups and the downs in their small slice of the world, and in this one particular summer of their childhood. The book walks you through the joys of the simple, the tragedy of loss, and how scary things can be from the point of view of a child who's growing up in a place and time when even something as simple as a nickel and a bottle of soda can make a difference in a kid's life. You, as the reader, get the feel for what Jolene experiences through the writing. And the writing pulls you into the mind of Jolene as she sees what's happening around her, and as she shares in her own young, simple, but poignant way, but which also has the feel of a child who has knowledge beyond her years, which was also something I can relate to in my own experiences growing up. Sometimes, as a kid, you have to grow up fast. It's not always good, but it happens. Lisa does all this without losing the ability to inject a little humor and wonder while sharing the loyalty between sisters, and you do pick up on that through it. They may fight between one another, but you can tell that there's the loyalty there. The tone is intimate and inviting, sharing the vision of the child narrator as she experiences life, loss, grief, and getting through tough times. While not strictly a work of biography, the reader, in my case me, walks away with a feeling that the writer has more invested in the story than she's letting on, and that adds to the readability of the work. It's a short read, but it's definitely worth the time and effort. I only wish that the book had been a little bit longer. I can only hope that when this book sees success, Lisa might have more tales to share in future installments. Maybe this particular book will be a part 1. Lisa, I want to thank you very much for letting this be my inaugural new author entry. I am honored and humbled to be a part of both your growth and have you help me with my growth in this endeavor. Ladies and gentlemen, you can find her work on Amazon in both hardcover, paperback, and on Kindle. And having spoken with Lisa many times, and I know the voice, she has the voice for it, maybe one day you'll see an audiobook version. I will post a link to on my webpage as soon as I get my website up and running. But again, you can find her on Amazon. I hope you, the listener, when you get this book, enjoy it as much as I do. And I encourage you to tell me what you think of it. I mean, definitely leave a review for Lisa, too, wherever you end up buying the book from. But I'd like to hear from you. I'd like to find out what you thought of it and tell me your points of view. Thanks again for choosing to spend some time with me. I always appreciate it. May your ink keep flowing, your coffee be warm and inviting, and your regrets only about the things you've learned to let go. Thank you much, and you folks have a great evening.